up on the world today. The military in Myanmar imposes martial law on more districts as the death toll rises from the protest. More countries around the world are suspending use of the Astrazeneca vaccine over concerns of blood clots. Plus, the Chinese capital is covered in what the Weather Bureau calls the country's worst sandstorm. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Akaite Afia in Lagos. We are witnessing the killing of more protesters in Myanmar, as Sunday is said to have been the deadliest day since the protests began against the military takeover of the country. The military junta has imposed martial law over more districts in the country in a move to stop anti-coup protests from continuing. But the protests have not abated, leading to more arrests of supporters of leader Aung San Suu Kyi and her party, the National League for Democracy.
A day after what has been described as the deadliest since the coup, protesters still clash with security forces who opened fire on pro-democracy demonstrators, killing 5 people. In another footage shared online, police officers were seen during a crackdown in Tamway Township, dragging off an unresponsive wounded protester and aggressively detaining a fellow female protester. The injured protester, who later died, was identified as 17-year-old Kant Nyahen, a first-year medical university student. On Sunday evening, the state broadcaster announced that martial law had been imposed in Yangon's Hilentaya district, where domestic media had reported that at least 14 protesters were killed by security forces earlier. It said the implementation of martial law was up to the commander on the ground. Shwe Pita is also under martial law. The announcement comes after protesters and police faced off in Yangon, the protesters hiding behind shields and barricades as security forces opened fire and lobbed tear gas. In the meantime, families in Yangon have been holding funerals for those who died. The latest deaths from Sunday have brought the toll to about 140, based on a tally by rights group Assistance Association for Political Prisoners.
Well, let's head over to Australia, where 3 generations of the same family attended a March 4th justice protest outside of Australia's Parliament House in Canberra earlier today, joining for the call for justice for sexual assault victims and gender equality. Zero Marks 11, who identified as non-binary, started to cry while listening to Brittany Higgins, who spoke of being raped by a colleague in Parliament 2 years ago. Marks, along with her mother, Belinda Barnard, at 44, and grandmother, Jeanette Johnson, who's 65, were among the tens of thousands of people gathered outside Australia's Parliament and in towns and cities across the country. The March for Justice rallies were spurred by a recent wave of allegations of sexual assault, discrimination, and misconduct in some of Australia's highest political offices. Women wore black to signal strength and mourning, carried banners with slogans including "Shatter the Silence, Stop the Violence," and joined "We Will Not Be Silenced" chants.
2 things. I feel, of course, this is women supporting women, but I feel also sad that I remember all the women and children that have died, and all the women that have been rape victims, all the women that have reported sexual harassment, all the women that are working for less pay, all the women that have been denied job opportunities because on the mere basis they're female. And so that makes me angry that I'm 62, we're still doing this. We're still talking about the same things. And the men are choosing not to listen.
Well, to another development, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says he has full confidence in London's police chief days after the force faced heavy public criticism for breaking up a vigil for a murdered woman. London police faced an official inquiry into their actions after they intervened on Saturday, March 13th night vigil for Sarah Everard, the 33-year-old woman who disappeared as she walked home on March 3rd. A policeman has been charged with her murder. Johnson said he was, quote, very concerned after images showed police officers scuffling with mourners and dragging women away from the vigil.
Well, I was very concerned about the images that I saw, and so yesterday morning I talked to Cressida Dick, the official in the metropolis, and we agreed that we'd look at it, and the Home Secretary has now commissioned Tom Windsor, the HMIC, the Inspector of Constabulary, to look at exactly what happened in that vigil. I think a lot of people were concerned about that.
Do you have full confidence in Astrazeneca?
Yes, I do, and what she's asked is, as I say, that we look at what happened on Saturday night. The police do have a very, very difficult job, but there's no question that the scenes that we saw were very distressing, and so it is right that Tom Windsor, the Inspector of Constabulary, should do a full report into it. I think people have got to have confidence in the police, and Tom's going to be looking at that.
Countries around the world have been pausing the rollout of the Astrazeneca vaccine because of concerns on possible side effects. Germany has become the latest country to announce it will stop administering the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine immediately, also over concerns of blood clots. The health ministry says it follows a recommendation from the Paul Ehrlich Institute, which advises the German government on vaccinations. Earlier today, the Netherlands joined the list, despite assurances from the World Health Organization and the European Medicines Agency, saying there is no indication of a link between the vaccine and reports of blood clots.
The Netherlands on Sunday joined a fast-growing list of countries suspending the use of AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine after reports of unexpected possible side effects from the injection. The vaccine will not be used until at least March 29th as a precaution, according to the Dutch government. The announcement will lead to delays in rolling out shots in the country, which had pre-ordered 12 million doses of the vaccine. Ireland also temporarily suspended the vaccine out of an abundance of caution on Sunday, citing reports from the Norwegian Medicine Agency regarding a cluster of serious blood clotting in some recipients there. 3 health workers in Norway who had recently received the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine were being treated in hospital for bleeding, blood clots, and a low count of blood platelets. Ireland's National Immunization Advisory Committee recommended a temporary deferral pending the receipt of more information from European regulators in the coming days. Other countries such as Thailand and Democratic Republic of Congo have also delayed rollout on the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, citing the suspension of the use of shots by several European countries. The Thai government says it was suspending the rollout for safety investigations. Countries like Denmark, Norway, Iceland and Bulgaria and some regions in Spain have also suspended the rollout of AstraZeneca vaccine. Brazil, on the other hand, has given final approval for the vaccine and has begun the rollout, even though it's only registered for emergency use and doses have been imported from India. The World Health Organization is listening to the concerns and says it is systematically reviewing the safety signals and is carefully assessing the current reports.
WHO is aware that some countries have suspended the use of AstraZeneca vaccines based on reports of blood clots in some people who received doses of the vaccine from 2 batches. This measure was taken as a precaution while a full investigation is finalized. It's important to note that the European Medicines Agency has said there is no indication of a link between the vaccine and blood clots, and that the vaccine can continue to be used while its investigation is ongoing.
AstraZeneca, on the other hand, says there's no evidence of an increased risk of blood clots and will support the WHO's investigation.
It's been a week since Nigeria first received its first shipment of the Astrazeneca vaccine, and there have been no complaints so far, but with the concerns in Europe, we still have to talk about it. So we have joining us now leading virologist and chairman at the Expert Review Committee on COVID-19, Professor Oyewale Tomori. Professor, thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
So could you help explain some of these concerns expressed by these countries in Europe about blood clots?
Yeah, I think it is important to stress and put it in the right perspective. There are 14 countries or so that have giving what you call precautionary suspension pending further investigation. It must be stressed that of the 14 countries, I think only 3 or 4 of them actually are reporting bleeding disorders or blood clots. So it's not every country that are suspended. They are only taking what they call precautionary measures. The WHO has said it's okay. The company that made it said it's okay. And a few other countries. We are using it in Nigeria now. We have not reported any side effects on that nature. But I think it's also important to mention that on a regular, normal basis without the vaccine, you have people reporting about one out of 1,000 people, were coming down with blood clots on one day on a regular basis without the vaccine. But now with what we are having, actually, you're having something like about 1 in 130,000. So it's really it's far below the normal threshold that you get. So on that basis, I think countries have a right to be precautious, but then the benefits I'd say so far outweigh what have been reported.
Well, I'm sure people are wondering, are there precautionary measures to be taken before receiving the jab? For example, should someone discuss with their doctor for assurance purposes?
Oh, sure. I think one of the things I'm hoping that people will do in the centers where we do all the vaccination, if you're given the time to come in at 9 o'clock, try and get there about 15 minutes before time. And I think the centers should open up a video center where they run regularly, 10, 15, 5 minutes of information about what are the side effects, what you need to do, and such other things, so that people will come in, at least 5 minutes, 10 minutes before the time they get their vaccine, listen to those information, have somebody there they can ask questions to assure them that it's okay. So you find that in many vaccination centers where a video runs concurrently or consecutively, in which you have people that are told what are the side effects, what questions you need to ask, what if you have any special reasons why you should not get the vaccine. Then you have somebody there giving you that information. I think we should set up such things in many of our vaccination centers, and people then encouraged to come in at least 15 minutes before the time they are given for their vaccination, to listen to those ones and then make up their mind after that type of thing.
Yes, well, would it also help to test for COVID-19 before taking that jab?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't, again, people who get infected, if you have an infection, for example, we do vaccinate people even during the time when you have an infection going on. I think it's going to be an extra burden, which, and then the result we're getting doesn't really help you, because you can have the asymptomatic infection and not be positive. So I think it will be an added problem, which will not really be of any advantage. So people should go in there and get their vaccine.
And I mean, looking ahead, generally, vaccinations have lifespans. So is it likely that one may have to repeat the jabs after a period of time, as has been the case with other vaccinations?
Yeah, of course. We know very little about this vaccine now. It's been around for less than a year. I mean, when they tell you for yellow fever that you can go back after 10 years, it's because of years of use of yellow fever. They started using yellow fever vaccines since the 1930s. And so you can say if I was vaccinated in 1950 and I'm now this year, you can say it lasts up to 20 years. But now this is a work in progress. We just have this less than a year. All you can say is that those who were vaccinated a year ago, you can say they have immunity for at least 1 year. You have to wait for another period. So it is possible. We don't know whether the antibodies will win. Not naturally, antibodies will win. Even with yellow fever, of course, as I mentioned, they could tell you go back every 10 years because the level of immunity will have gone down. So I don't expect this to be different. The level of immunity will go down, but how fast it goes down, nobody knows as yet.
All right. Well, Professor, thanks again for joining us and giving us some more clarity on the situation. And do stay safe.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Still ahead on The World Today. How far would you go for love? As far as cuffing yourself to your beloved? Well, we'll see you after the break. Thanks for staying with us. China's National Observatory has issued a yellow alert for sandstorms sweeping the northern region of the country. It begins today until 8 a.m. tomorrow for Xinjiang, Inner Mongolia, Heilongjiang, Jilin, Liaoning, Gansu, Ningxi, Shanxi, Hebei, Beijing, and Tianjin. The center has advised the public to take precautions against the heavy winds and sandstorms and suggested that drivers in advance prepare for poor visibility due to ensure traffic safety. The Chinese capital of Beijing has been shrouded in thick brown dust as a result of heavy winds blowing in from the Gobi Desert and parts of northwestern China, in what the meteorological agency has called the biggest sandstorm in a decade. It's the opposite in the United States as dangerous storms batter parts of the U.S., Rockies and Western Plains with heavy snow on Sunday, shutting down Denver's busy airport, stranding motorists and forcing the closure of major highways. Snowfall and blizzard conditions were expected to continue until midnight local time in parts of Colorado, according to the National Weather Service, and by evening 3 feet or 1 meter of snow had dropped in high altitude areas. In Cheyenne, Wyoming, about 26 inches of snow had fallen by noon, according to the National Weather Service, setting a new 2-day record for the city. In eastern Colorado, wind gusts of 45 miles per hour, or about 72 kilometers per hour, prompted the National Weather Service on Sunday afternoon to issue a blizzard warning for about a 90-mile stretch of the state's urban corridor along Interstate 25, from Fort Collins to Castle Rock. Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif says time is running out for the United States to revive the nuclear deal because of Iran's upcoming June presidential election, which will entail a waiting period for almost 6 months. Speaking at the European Center, Zarif said that he had seen no change between the Biden administration and the Trump administration's policy of the maximum pressure to force Iran back to the negotiating table, and he called the U.S. to change course. Nigerians have been celebrating Afrobeat star Burna Boy and Wizkid for their wins at the Grammys last night. Burna Boy won the Best Global Music Album category, beating 4 others, including the Malian band Tina Riwen. The Grammys nomination described his Twice as Tall album as a, quote, masterclass in the vibe and hustle that have made Burna Boy an international music force. While Wizkid won the Best Music Video for his song with Beyoncé, Brown Skin Girl, from Lion King, The Gift album. Beyoncé's daughter, Blue Ivy, was also a winner on this song. The video, which saw Wizkid win, was described as, quote, a feast for the fashion-forward and a celebration of black and brown female beauty everywhere. Well, let's talk now to singer, music producer, and member of the Academy Class of 2020, Agbisabola Oluseun John, professionally known as Bankuli. He joins us from Surulere right here in Lagos. Thanks for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So talk to us about how big this win is for Nigerian and African artists and the believability that the world is listening to Nigerian music.
Well, these Grammy awards that they just received, I mean, Wizkid and Davido, Wizkid and Burna Boy, is something that is very great for the entertainment industry. I mean, the music industry in Nigeria and Africa, because what it does is it shines more light on upcoming talent and also developed talent, and also possibilities and things that can be done to uplift the Nigerian music industry. So for me, I believe it's an opportunity. It's the recognition is not just for the artist, but also for the country at large and also Africa.
This is all thanks to the new categories that were created in the Grammys, but does this translate into more work for Nigerian and African artists?
Definitely. A lot of people need to understand that the process for getting nomination on the Grammy Academy, the Recording Academy, is open for everybody, not just for only Nigerians. If you go to their website, when you have your project put together, well put together for the Academy, and submitted at the right time, it goes through a certain criteria where they screen out which is which. And at that point, you can get nominated, and also equally, when they find you very good and you pass through the recording process where they select the song that eventually wins, you can also win. So it's an opportunity that is open for everybody, not just only Nigerians, but every musician, every creative person that puts in project musically.
Well, going forward, do you think that artists will make songs just to win awards, or that they'll continue just to enjoy their music journey? And I ask this because a lot of people do feel that Burna Boy's Twice as Tall album was targeted at winning the Grammys.
Very true. It depends on the building process of that particular artist. Burna Boy, before this award he just received, I've released a very solid body of work, the African Giant, which we all felt, should have won at that particular time. And now he has also equally put up a project, to follow up that he has released earlier on. It is in the hand of artists. It is your choice, what you want. It is not our own, to tell you what to do and the direction of your music. If you choose to put a body of work together to get, nomination or being nominated or being recognized around the world, so be it. And of course, like I always tell people, there's something about catalog. He has enough catalogs over the years that he has released that is satisfying his consumers, listeners. So if he's going to tilt towards a project that will get him the nomination, I think is a smart idea.
All right, well, congratulations to Burna Boy, and Benkulu, thank you so much for joining us today on the program.
Thank you very much, and thanks for inviting me.
And finally on the program, a Ukrainian couple who grew tired of arguing are trying to mend their on and off relationship by handcuffing themselves together for 3 months and documenting their experiences on social media. 33-year-old online car salesman Alexander Kudle and 28-year-old beautician Victoria Pustovitova began what they call their experiment on Valentine's Day and have since gained thousands of followers on Instagram. He came up with the idea after Pustovitova said she wanted to break up with him. She then refused the idea at first, but eventually changed her mind. Now they post images of themselves on Instagram, portraying an idyllic coexistence, complete with captions stressing the importance of mutual respect and understanding. So, I guess it worked. Well, I don't know about handcuffing yourselves to your partner, but that is all we have for the program today. I'm Akaitse Afia. Have a great evening and stay safe.